What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Okay. And just gotta give the stream a second. And we are on.
Fuck yeah.
Greetings. Let me get this properly on here. Greetings and welcome back to. I don't know what did we settle on as a name for this stream series now? Or we're calling it weaponized autism now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like Predator 4, but without the Shane Black douchiness. Anyways, I'm your host, some Spurg Lord, with my co-host, some other Spurg Lord. Here to
Hell
talk
yeah.
about. Sorry, what?
I said hell yeah. What's going on, y'all?
Here to talk about. It has now been well over a year since the release of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. See also the only good live action Resident Evil film adaptation out there. Uh,
No shit.
I, I don't give a rat's ass what anyone tries to say about Paul W.S. Anderson's movies, even the first two. In my humble opinion, were not that good and were barely above the quality of a sci-fi channel TV movie from the early 2000s, which is hilarious when you consider a lot of people complain about Welcome to Raccoon City looking cheap.
I mean, it was still better. It was still a more lore accurate movie.
Yeah, the movie actually felt like it's the first live action Resident Evil film I've seen that you and I have seen where we can honestly look at it and objectively say, yeah, this looks, sounds, and feels like a Resident Evil movie in spite of its shortcomings, and they are numerous. I'm not going to dispute that. It does have its flaws. But unlike the Anderson movies, it actually does properly try. Like, even when Anderson tried with that first Resident Evil movie back in '02, he didn't really try. But I've said before, I have my own issues with that first 2002 movie. The lighting was just it was overlit. They're they really skimped on the gore, and they skimp on the gore hard in all the other ones, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Welcome to Raccoon City does do that too, which is it really shouldn't, but you know, I didn't
I mean,
say.
at least it was R rated.
Yeah, at least they didn't try to. I mean, let's be real here. If not for the language, a lot of most of Anderson's Resident Evil movies probably could have gotten away with a PG-13. You could just easily You could have just cut around all the gory bits and easily gotten a PG-13 rating. That's how tame they were. This one, like, it tries to go for that for like. It's not Tom Savini or Greg Nicotero levels of gore, but I'll take what I can get.
Oh, the great Tom Savini. I'd love to see him work on a Resident Evil movie.
Dude. Dude,
he worked on some of the Friday the 13th films.
And Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead.
And we already all know what Greg Nicotero is famous for.
Yeah. Yeah,
Walking
and
Dead.
Not just The Walking Dead. I mean, he also worked on Evil Dead 2 and Pulp Fiction.
Okay, Evil Dead 2, not surprising. Pulp Fiction, surprising.
Yeah.
But knowing he worked on this scene where it's like, come on, do you have to have an opinion? Do you think Jesus just came down and they go over a bump? accidentally shot him in the face.
Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face. Why the fuck did you do that?
Because he went over a bump.
And the car didn't hit no motherfucking bump.
That movie's a fucking classic. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... It's not my favorite Tarantino movie ever, but it's definitely up there. Anyways. After 6 Resident Evil movies, that became increasingly less and less like Resident Evil, to the point where it turned into Paul W.S. Anderson trying to make Mad Max with zombies, and then
Pretty much.
Anderson trying to make Underworld with zombies and a less compelling lead actress. I'm sorry, but Mila Jovovich is not an actress. She's a model. She's a prop with speaking lines. Kate Beckinsale's a fucking actress.
I mean, I didn't really care for the Resident Evil movies, but I did kind of like the Monster Hunter movie.
See,
I'm probably gonna think that, but
see, I'm not a Monster Hunter. I've never played a Monster Hunter game, so I was just largely watching the movie to see how it was, and it's like, you had Tony Jaa, one of the biggest martial arts actors of this generation, and you decide to put him in a scene where it's him and Mila fighting, and you go in for that uptight machine gun editing where it's a fight scene but you can't tell what the fuck is going on bullshit. It's like, what the fuck, Paul? It's like, well, maybe you need to stop hiring an editor who unironically calls himself Doobie. Yeah, I think Doobie White might have been hitting a few doobies during editing.
yeah.
You get there? Sounds like you might have the pussiest form of the coof.
Nah, I just took the medicine since I'm still getting over this cold, and it just makes me cough, but it's gonna make me feel a hell of a lot better here in a minute.
Hopefully it wasn't NyQuil.
No, Alka-Seltzer.
Oh, there you go. You ever hear that? You ever see that Dennis Leary bit about NyQuil where he's like, on the back of a box it actually says may cause drowsiness. What it should say is don't make any fucking plans.
You can't sneeze if you're unconscious.
Exactly. Welcome to Raccoon City. Like after as goddamn ridiculous as the Anderson movies got, because they're not Resident Evil. Those movies are Buffy the Tyrant Slayer. They always have been, and they always will be. Here we had Welcome to Raccoon City, which was a genuine attempt on Johannes Roberts' part to take the series back to its origin story and take it back to its horror-oriented roots and try to make something that actually, felt like it was made for Resident Evil fans and wasn't just spank bait for Anderson's wife, basically. Because let's be real, that's what the latter half of the Anderson series was. It was Mila Spank Bank.
Pretty much.
Or maybe Spank Bait is what I should be saying. This movie...
he literally filmed a lot of those scenes. He literally filmed just so we could watch him in the nights in the bedroom he was alone.
Probably. Some of those scenes, it felt like Paul was directing with... It felt like when he was writing his scripts for those movies, it felt like Anderson could have easily just been typing with one hand. I'll let you figure out what he was doing with the other one.
Well, if it's his right hand, it's obvious.
Yeah. No, if he
don't want to think about that later. So I don't want to think about that later. So let's move on.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain if he tried to use his right hand for that, he'd have to first slip in a date rape drug. But anyways,
That's just fuck.
relax, YouTube. It's just a joke. Calm the fuck down.
And it's literally a joke about a man doing it to himself. So, well, wait, did you say he was going to give it? He was going to give his own hand a date rape drug.
Yes, I just said he was going to. He'd have to. He'd have to roofie his right hand in order to fuck himself.
Oh, you see, that's not that bad of a joke.
Yeah. Now, this movie was originally supposed to be produced by James Wan, which I'm not a fan of James Wan as a horror director. I think he's better as an action director. But I mean, he did produce. He did help produce the Mortal Kombat 2021, which was great if you remove Louis Tan's character from the entire goddamn movie because he has no purpose to be there.
I mean, I heard that originally the Resident Evil reboot was gonna be like taking elements from Resident Evil 7 and rolling with that, which I would have been okay with, honestly, because that it would have been straight horror instead of that action bullshit, which was the latter entirety of the freaking Anderson films.
Yeah, the first writer that was attached to do the reboot, Greg Russo, who also wrote the script for Mortal Kombat 2021, and he's currently working on a System Shock miniseries. And I believe he's also writing a sequel to Netflix's Death Note movie, which that'll be interesting to see.
Let's not forget who was the director of the first one, Adam Wingard, and we already know what he's good for.
Yeah, well, he made Godzilla vs. Kong, which is one of the few times I've ever given a fuck about kaiju movies.
I mean, they skimped out on the action a little bit on that one, but honestly, for the last 15, 20 years, I've wanted to see a modern Godzilla versus King Kong movie, and that's what we got.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. I was 2 years before it came out. I already knew Mechagodzilla was gonna be in it, so because of a fucking leaked image from a Hong Kong toy fair when originally it was gonna come out in early mid 2020 before fucking COVID hit. And then they're release it in November of 2020, but then it got pushed to late March of 2021, and I didn't see it till you see, I used to be on a roll with seeing those movies on day one, like day one in theaters.
Yeah.
But Kong Skull Island I saw a day after its release, and Godzilla vs. Kong I saw 3 days after its original release. Okay, I'm done rambling on that now.
But somewhere along the line, I guess James Wan and Greg Russo had to drop out, with Johannes Roberts coming on to take up writing and directing duties, which James Wan was just going to be a producer on it anyway. Johannes Roberts' approach to the story, taking the first two games and mashing them together into one movie, I was very intrigued by the idea, and despite some of the execution not being as good as it possibly could have been, I think for the most part it actually does work. There are some things that were supposed to be in the movie that I wish had actually made the cut, and just unfortunately, one of the problems this movie faces is to it does not have the budget. It did not have the budget it needed to pull off all of what Roberts wanted. It was supposed to be done on a $40 million budget before Sony just completely slashed it to $25 million and forcing him to drop certain scenes out of the movie, which with Hollywood, with Hollywood, when you start taking scenes out, the ones that are always the first to go, and I will never understand this. The first scenes that are always the first to go are scenes that better flesh out the plot and flesh out the characters. Like there was going to be an extra scene involving where Wesker actually meets Ada at the police station prior to the STARS team getting deployed to the Spencer Mansion, and so that would have actually set up it, giving you something of an idea of who Wesker's contact has been, instead of just this pervasive mystery hanging over the movie that's just a gaping plot hole until an arbitrary mid-credit scene comes in.
So I was saying, it would have made the mid-credit scene make more sense. Like, I was like, wait a minute, how'd she know he was there?
Yeah. It would have helped give further context to Ada's appearance at the end of the film. Originally, Wesker was not supposed to be shot and killed by Jill in the lab underneath the mansion. He was supposed to be killed by G. Mutant Birkin, and that would have actually helped kickstart that small cat and mouse fight between Chris and Birkin before he was to mutate further, which I would rather see that.
And if he was stabbed by Birkin's claw, that would have filled in for the game when Wesker was stabbed by the Tyrant Claw.
Yeah. That would have started. And assuming he injected himself with that virus before, because I'm pretty sure, according to the lore, he injected himself with the virus before he was stabbed to death by the Tyrant. He did before the STARS team. He did before his mission, before he and the STARS were deployed to Spencer Mansion. He actually injected himself with a prototype strain of the T virus, and the virus bonded with him much in the same way that it did with Alice in the Anderson movies. It woke him back. It brought him back from the dead before the mansion exploded.
And he quickly got out of Dodge.
Yeah.
There was a segment in Umbrella Chronicles that explained his journey getting out of there before the mansion detonated.
Yeah. Lisa Trevor had more to do in some of the material that was cut out because of budgetary constraints. Originally, she was supposed to be like Birkin's second mutant form that we see on the train at the end of the movie was supposed to appear before all the survivors got on the train, and Lisa was going to... There was going to be a scene where Lisa holds off Birkin while everybody else gets on the train, and Birkin ends up killing her and going after the survivors. Which, as sad as that would have been to see, it also would have been epic as fuck. Birkin versus Lisa Trevor. There was... That's just a small number of... and there was actually an original draft of the script where the characters were much closer in line to their video game characters than what we see in the movie. Now, your mileage may vary. I actually like the way that... I actually get what Roberts was going for, the way certain characters in this movie are portrayed. And for the most part, I think they work. Kaya Scodelario's Claire, I really like her Uh, I really like her character in this movie. She's not a grand snark master like she was in the RE2 remake, which I think I prefer Alison Court's Claire. I prefer Claire not being a grand snark master.
Well, when that mutated scientist you kill keeps fucking coming back, you kind of you're gonna get snarky and sarcastic, like, oh, this motherfucker again. It's like I'm pretty sure a majority, like in certain timelines of the Godzilla series, it's like they look out the window like, ugh, Godzilla again. Ah, fuck it, I gotta get this laundry done.
Robbie Amell, I liked as Chris.
His cousin was Green Arrow.
His what?
His cousin was Green Arrow in the DC TV show Arrow.
Huh.
Stephen Amell, who is also, I think, Casey Jones in the more recent TMNT movies.
The Megan Fox one?
Yep.
Ah.
That says it all.
Not that we should hold that against him. But yeah, Robbie Amell actually.
I was attracted to Megan Fox when the first Transformers came out, but I've grown out of that. It's like I can do so much better than that.
She has no business being in Expendables 4, but that's a rant for another day.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, that's a rant for another day, and hey, it's coming out next year, so we'll talk about it eventually. But Robbie,
to talk about when color drops.
Like I get what they were going for with Chris in this movie. They wanted to make him a conflicted small town cop who's trying to hang on to everything he's got. He obviously has a strained relationship with Claire, and there was a lot of opportunity, I think, to really build on that, and it wasn't fully explored. It's better than Wentworth Miller, who reduced Chris to a walking douche smirk with a crew cut.
I wouldn't even call that a crew cut.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm 99% positive Anderson cast Wentworth Miller as Chris just so he could make a wink wink nudge nudge Prison Break reference. Because when you first meet Chris in Resident Evil Afterlife, he's literally in a fucking prison cell, and one of the first lines out of his mouth is, "I know a way out of this place."
I mean, it doesn't help that Wentworth Miller looks like a goddamn Wishbrand Sam Witwer.
Subtle. Anyways.
AKA Star Killer from Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
It's like seriously, you I'm sorry, just that entire damn movie I just fucking could not stand.
And it also what also helps Robbie Amell's performance is that, unlike Wentworth Miller, Robbie Amell actually plays the fucking Resident Evil games. Wentworth Miller's research into Chris Redfield was essentially Google images and YouTube.
And boulder punching.
Robbie Amell actually wants to have Chris punch a boulder in a potential sequel to Welcome to Raccoon City if they ever make it. And I kind of want to see that happen. I want to see Robbie Amell, Chris Redfield punching a boulder just for the goddamn Kodak moment.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say about Robbie Amell saying that is, I'm just gonna quote Obi-Wan from the Revenge of the Sith video game. Anakin, please come back to the light. It's not too late. I can help you.
And then we get
honestly, I am intrigued to see that, honestly.
And then we get to the elephant in the room, the one that got everybody's panties in a twist, Avin Jogia's portrayal of Leon. I'm going to say this with crystal fucking clarity. Leon, yes, he is a bumbling fuck-up in this movie, but there is a legitimate narrative reason for that. It is not.
He's hungry.
It is not. Oh, they took a beloved character and just turned him into an idiot. He is a rookie. This is
Rookie
his
cop.
first day on the job. Pardon the lily-livered fuck out of me and Kaysen for expecting a rookie caught up in a zombie siege during his first night on the job to behave like a rookie caught up in a zombie siege during his first night on the goddamn job.
Yeah, he had the worst. He had the worst day in existence. I mean, the worst first day of work in existence.
Between and just being swept up in a zombie apocalypse scenario is one thing. Being swept up in a zombie apocalypse scenario while nursing a hangover from hell was just the cherry on top.
Yeah, no shit.
Which is a detail that was lifted straight from S.D. Perry's novelizations of Resident Evil. Because in her novelization for Resident Evil 2, City of the Dead, Leon, yeah, that's a legit explanation as to why Leon is actually late for his first shift as a Raccoon police officer, is that he recently went through a nasty breakup and now he's extremely hungover.
What I want to know is why the fuck would anybody break over with Avon Jogia if they have the chance? It's Avon Jogia. Come on, look at the man. He only certain, I know certain people who will be watching this will get the reference I'm about to make, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was that fucking goth bitch Jade from that Victoria show he was in. But that show takes place in the 2010s, so probably not, but it's a theory.
Yeah,
they never said what decade it took place in, so who knows?
Hi, Jacko. Hi from America.
Oh, who just commented? Oh, what's up, Jacko? Oh, he's in Finland, and he needs coffee.
Yep. I know how that feels. And I don't even drink coffee.
I just drink Dr. Pepper in the morning.
I go between Coke and Mountain Dew. But anyways, yeah, I get what Roberts was going for with Leon. Like, they want, like, it's kind of a classic hero's journey where you have this, which is funny because Leon's a supporting character in this movie. You have a guy who just kind of starts off with, like, he's just the small fish in the big pond, and then as the story goes on, he just progressively grows into the hero that we all know and love. It's what, you know, they're looking to do the same thing with Mario in the upcoming Super Mario movie, and of course people are just bitching about it because, you know, apparently nobody realizes that kids movies use the goddamn hero's journey arc anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like that seems to me like that's what they were going for with Leon with this. And again, I feel like he, like, a little bit of extra screen time and they could have fleshed him out a little bit better. But I get the intention, and I respect the intention. Like, and again, Avon Jogia actually fucking plays Resident Evil. He outright admitted that he's a goddamn Resident Evil 4 fanatic. So,
which will make you goddamn excited for a potential Welcome to Raccoon City sequel based on RE4.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how he feels about the RE4 remake coming up.
All I can say is I hope I'm upgraded to the next Xbox by the time it comes out, because I really want to fucking play that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't surprise me if it was just a straightforward, just a rebuild of the original game, just with some things thrown in.
Yeah.
I just wish they'd reveal Krauser already. I'm intrigued to know who's voicing Krauser, who's voicing Krauser, who's doing the face model for Krauser, what he's gonna fucking look like.
I think they're really saving that as a big surprise for us, which hey, I'm fine with that.
I mean, DC Douglas, who sorry Resident Evil community, but DC Douglas is a fucking douche canoe. But anyway, DC Douglas said in an interview somewhere that he was gonna be doing the voice of Wesker in the game. He broke the code.
Yeah, which pretty sure Capcom would have an issue or two about that.
And it's like you shouldn't be casting DC Douglas anyway, considering his Twitter account got suspended because he was making rape jokes and he was doxing his victims.
Yeah.
And I joined this new social network called Hive Social, and I joined it just to troll him. Like he said, his first post on the platform was, "Let's see how long it takes for this to ban me." And I said, "What?" And hashtag algorithm needs to get a sense of humor, and it's like, well, I wouldn't exactly call rape jokes and doxing your victims a sense of humor, but whatever floats your boat, bud. And I also commented a bunch of throwing up emojis. And he blocked me.
Eh,
And literally the entire Resident Evil community on Twitter fucking hates him.
well, I mean, you may be a good Wesker, but it doesn't mean you're a good person.
Yeah.
And on the subject of Wesker, I will admit that it actually frustrates me that people take two scenes from this movie of Tom Hopper's Wesker and they use that to judge his entire fucking character. Two scenes where it's like, we never got a sense of what kind of a person Wesker was like outside of the Spencer Mansion, outside of the STARS being deployed. We never got a sense of what any of the STARS members were like before their mission into the Spencer Mansion. So, for all we know, Wesker could have been a regular jokester. But it's like, you've got one scene where where Leon's passed out in the diner and Wesker's setting him up for a little prank. You got one scene where Wesker makes one crack at a line from Chief Irons, and people use that to basically say, well, they just turned Wesker into a frat boy. It's like, did you watch the movie after those two scenes? Because he's not. Like, and again, it's like, yeah, we know in the games he's kind of an evil mastermind.
Yeah.
In this movie, they kind of portrayed him as a guy who's like, who just wants a way out of the small town and is kind of in over his head, which I can go for, kind of a reluctant bad guy. And if they did make a sequel to this, like, they could really put him on, since he is now revived and possibly has the T-virus coursing through his blood, you can really do a lot with how the virus could start to slowly take over his mind and turn him into the megalomaniacal lunatic that we know from later entries in the series. It's like, it's their intention that I respect. And I think Tom Hopper, for all he's worth, he did a really solid job as an unrefined, still developing Albert Wesker. It was better than Sean Roberts, who basically turned Wesker into Diet Agent Smith.
I was gonna say Wish brand Agent Smith, but that works too.
Yeah, Wish brand Agent Smith. Mom, can we have Wesker? We have Wesker at home. Wesker at home.
Wesker. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't have my sunglasses in here, or I would do Wesker lines as Agent Smith. It doesn't work so well without the sunglasses.
I was gonna say, don't fuel the nightmare.
Yeah. Hannah John Kamen, I really wish had been given more screen time and more development as Jill in the story because of how pivotal a character in the games Jill is. Um, I don't mind that they more or less made her a wild card for the Stars team because you're gonna have a wild card in the group regardless. And Jill, like, the whole point of the Stars team in the games is they took some of the best and brightest out of military, out of special forces, and combined them into this one police force. You had Chris and Barry, who were members of the Air Force, a bunch of other guys, and Jill. Jill, prior to joining Stars in the games, was a Green Beret. Those Green Berets are real badasses.
Yep.
Assuming Jill's backstory in this is the same as it is in the games, where Jill is a former Green Beret, I could actually see her being the wild card of the group because those Green Berets are a little fucking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs sometimes.
I mean, it's Hannah John Kamen.
Yeah. Like, I really wish she had been given more development and more screen time, but that, again, I can only blame Sony for cutting Roberts' budget and not allowing him and not giving him a budget that would allow him ample time to properly build up his characters. That also extends to Neil McDonough's portrayal of William Birkin, which...
You see, Neil McDonough, he actually did the voice of Hulk in the 90s animated series.
Yeah?
Well, the voice of Bruce Banner, at least. I don't know if he voiced the Hulk, too.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of movies. This is actually the second film reboot of a Capcom property he's done after he played Bison in Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li. Not that we'll hold that against him. Did you ever end up seeing that movie?
Is it live action or animated?
Live action.
Tough to say.
Kristen Crook from Smallville was Chun-Li.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I've seen it, and...
Neil McDonough playing Bison, who for some reason was Irish. And to steal a quip from Razorfist...
Why?
And to steal a quip from Razorfist, not semi-plausible Boondock Saints Irish. And it's because they made Bison Irish. Not semi-plausible Boondock Saints Irish. It's more like Hornswoggle, Leprechaun 2, They're After Me, Lucky Charms Irish. Like, I believe Neil McDonough is Irish about as much as I believe Mickey Rooney is Japanese.
Oh, Lord.
That was a thing. he's much better off. The only good thing about that movie was Michael Clark Duncan playing Balrog. That's it. But Neil McDonough in this movie, like, I respect the deceptive attempt to set him up as this caring umbrella scientist. You know, in the opening scene, you show that he runs the Raccoon City orphanage, or he's like the head doctor there. The scenes with him and his wife and Sherry, where you know he clearly it seems like he's actually a pretty good dad, and then you learn that no, he's actually not. He's actually at the forefront of Umbrella's experiments, and he's very much not a good person. And Neil McDonough, he's such an underappreciated actor because he's actually really good at flipping that switch on and off, which is probably one of the reasons he plays so many bad guys. You know, it's sorry, I gotta text somebody here. It's one of the reasons he plays so many villains, and he plays them well. Then we have Donald Logue, who was my favorite character in the movie as Chief Irons. Like, they didn't, like, I appreciate that they didn't go full, like, Looney Tune insanity with Irons. They kind of made him more of a wacky cartoon character. He's not offing his own guys. He's not doing taxidermy.
But he's still shady. Shady.
He's not doing taxidermy on the mayor's daughter, but
still shady.
Clearly, he knew something was going on with Raccoon City, and that it was time to GTFO, but it wasn't properly fleshed out. Like, one scene, you could have like one scene that shows him being on Birkin's payroll, and it would have made all the difference. It's little things like that you can't take for granted when you're doing a movie, especially a movie with such a vast ensemble like this one. You know, you need to give your characters room to breathe and room to grow. That's one of the reasons the good version of Justice League is 4 hours long, because Zack Snyder needed that breathing room. I'm not saying this movie needs to be 4 hours long. It does.
It would have been cool.
It does, at the very least, need to be about 2 hours and 10 minutes long. An hour and 47 was not nearly enough time to properly flesh out everything that Roberts needed to. You know, it's almost the reverse of the first of Christoph Gantz's Silent Hill film, where all of Sean Bean's scenes, most of them could have easily just been cut out of the movie, and it would have shaved 20 minutes off the film's runtime, and the movie would have benefited from it. This movie needs more character in it. It needed more time to actually set things up and build its world up and build its characters up, on top of still delivering an intense horror experience. And then there were certain creatures from the games that were supposed to be in there that got cut, which I'm fine with the amount that's in there. I feel like it's quality. I'm a quality over quantity guy. I feel like you shouldn't just shove a bunch of monsters in from the games in there and then just hope for the best. The zombies, the Cerberus dogs, the Lickers, G. Mutant Birkin, and Lisa Trevor they all do fine. Even if the CGI is sketchy as hell on some of them, which sketchy CGI doesn't bother me nearly as much as it bothers apparently everybody else on YouTube. I can
Yep.
I can accept sketchy CGI to a certain degree. Sometimes it actually ends up being the most entertaining part of the movie because of how goofy and out of place it looks. The Megazords in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie from '95 are a clear example of that.
Dude, that's Sci-Fi Channel and the Asylum levels of CGI right there.
Yeah, or I was gonna say Mortal Kombat Annihilation, but the CG in that movie was just not even laughably bad. It was just bad.
Wasn't Gore basically a puppet in that one?
In the first one, yeah, Goro was an animatronic. There were shots where he was animatronic, and then there were shots where it was like, no, I think they did go full animatronic for Goro in the first Mortal Kombat, not Mortal Kombat Annihilation, because he was dead in Annihilation.
Seems like they always kill off the forearm characters. I mean, look at Grievous.
So uncivilized.
Yeah, it's like you're walking towards him with that freaking double electric stick, and he had the force to summon a blaster to him. What the fuck do you think was gonna happen, bruh? I must say that the Grievous boss battle on the Skywalker saga is actually, in the words of that one old comedian, nice.
Nice.
But the latter half of most of the original trilogy, I'm gonna quote The Rock. I just gotta say, it's the biggest piece of dog shit that I've ever seen.
You look
Because
like
they left out what would have been kick-ass flight levels in space. But honestly, that I was partially okay with it because, you know, I was speed running. I was basically speeding through it before I would go back and get the unlockables. Like, I got it last Tuesday, and I had it completed by Thursday. That should say a lot. And it's 9 whole fucking Lego Star Wars movies in one game.
Anyways.
Sorry, I got off topic there for a sec.
I'm just gonna say that a lot every time that happens. I watched Deadwood earlier this not earlier this early last year. I actually watched Deadwood all the way through, and every time the conversation takes a weird turn, characters will there will just be an awkward silence for a few seconds, and then characters will just go, anyways.
I was just talking about Lego Star Wars. No, it's not like I said something dirty on camera.
Or
Wait, did I say something dirty on camera?
No. Or,
okay, good. I have a very short memory track.
Or, since I'm going to say something dirty on camera, you could have, or like, one example is Al Swearingen after one of his many scenes where he just goes on this weird tangent about whatever while he's getting his pipe smoked. And then afterwards, just pick up a bottle of whiskey and...
Anyways.
Anyways. Which hats
off...
no!
Anyway.
Which hats off to Ian McShane for being able to go through those scenes as long as they went on. Because his dialogue for those scenes was just like pages and pages and pages of shit. A lot of which he had to learn on the spot. and God bless him for it. Anyways, uh, yeah, I feel like with a I respect what Roberts was trying to do with this movie, and I feel like with a bigger budget and and a longer running time. No, you know what? Fuck that. A lot. I feel like a lot of people didn't see this in the theater because because they knew there was a Netflix Resident Evil series set to come out, and a lot of them just assumed this was the Netflix series. This should have been the goddamn Netflix series. Because let's be real, Roberts would have been at Netflix, and Netflix has a very shotgun approach to production. They pretty much just leave the creatives alone to just do whatever they want. So Roberts wouldn't have had any studio interference like he had to encounter with Sony producing this fucking movie. In the form of a television series, you have more breathing room to properly flesh out your story and characters than a 2-hour runtime would be able to afford you. This should have been the Resident Evil Netflix. It actually would have been watchable, because I still have only watched the first 2 episodes of Netflix Evil. I have not made it through the rest of the series. And after watching John Wolfe's review of the series, I'm pretty sure I don't need to. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that fucking Olive Garden scene. Jesus, titty twisting Christ, Lance Reddick, you're above that.
I'm just trying. I didn't really care for the scene where it was the fucking one of the main fucking females going singing to that fucking TikTok song that was a trend 3 years ago, and it's like yes, it's what a lot of YouTubers were saying. Yes, this scene really was fucking in the new Resident Evil series.
It doesn't help that. Well, it certainly helps when you realize what the showrunners look like, and they look like they look like dumpy, peaked in high school, late 30s, early 40s,
Swamp
dickheads who are. I look at that scene and I'm like, tell me you're trying to write for the current generation without understanding the current generation, without telling me you're trying to write for the current generation without understanding the current generation.
No wonder it got canned for one season.
Just the 2 episodes alone that I did watch, every time it went back to 2022, Jade and Billy's dialogue, and even the dialogue of some of their classmates, it felt like the kind of dialogue you get from a 55-year-old bald spot whose only recent exposure to the American teenager was kicking back in his Barcalounger with a big gulp in one hand, a fistful of Cheetos in the other, and just wasting a day away on a 9-hour iCarly binge. See also every Disney sitcom in the history of fucking ever.
Yeah.
God. What happens when boomers try to write Zoomers? Which is funny. Which is funny because the showrunners for that show looked at least mid-30s, early 40s. And it's like, tell me you're. You know what? People can give this movie so much shit, but at least Johannes Roberts actually fucking plays Resident Evil. The people behind just the 2 episodes of the show that I did watch, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Netflix's showrunners for that show, if their only exposure to Resident Evil was watching the Anderson movies and then spending 5 minutes skimming through the game's Wikipedia page and calling it a day. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, that series was an entire clusterfuck.
Like I said, just from John Wolfe's video that I did watch on it, I feel like I don't need to watch the rest of the series after looking at that and seeing, yeah, they did the exact same mistakes they did as the Anderson movies. They shoved all the beloved characters aside to make way for a new protagonist that no one gives a fraction of a shit about. And monsters from the games are just arbitrarily thrown in for cheap fan service. At least with this movie, like when they brought in the zombies progressively losing, or just being regular people progressively losing their mind, like in in George Romero's The Crazies, or the Cerberus dog scene in the underground parking garage, or the liquor scene in the orphanage, or Lisa Trevor's appearance and Birkin's appearance in the underground lab and in the in the train. They weren't there for just say, hey, look, here's this thing from the game that you really like. They were there for a reason. The scene worked. The scenes actually worked. I'm still, like, my favorite part of that movie is still the blackout gunfight between with Chris and the zombies in the mansion.
When he's in the dark.
Yeah, I fucking love that scene. And somebody
it felt like survival horror.
Yeah, it was actually, like, genuinely tense, that scene. And somebody tried to draw a comparison between, oh, he's shooting in the dark and you can only see them briefly through flashes of fire. Oh, you know what that's like. Uwe Boll's alone in the dark. I'm like, get fucked, man. Like, get just completely all the way. Because they have the comparisons for those two are only surface level. Because in Welcome to Raccoon City, the blackout gunfire sequence actually has a narrative purpose to it. Chris is stuck in this corner of the mansion and it has to get the fuck out, but there's zombies rushing him in the dining hall. It was genuinely, it was tight, it was tense, and it had a narrative purpose to exist. You know, Chris is trying to get the fuck out and get to Jill and Wesker because Richard's dead.
And he got swarmed by zombies.
Yeah. Yeah. In Alone in the Dark, it was just another excuse for Uwe Boll to completely shoehorn in an unnecessary music video style action sequence. So,
with creatures that look like knockoff xenomorphs.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that movie was a complete waste of Christian Slater and Stephen Dorff's self-evident talents. I love Christian Slater and Stephen Dorff, but my God, that was the wrong movie for them. That was the wrong movie for anyone associated with it. That was the wrong movie for anyone who even farted in Alone in the Dark's general direction.
You're not kidding. I mean, there's now talk on a rise of a supposed Alone in the Dark remake coming out, but
yeah, there's a trailer for a reboot game and it's supposed to be out sometime next year, which you're damn right I'm going to be playing that. I fucking love Alone in the Dark. I need to play the originals on the channel because I have them on my GOG account. And I have the 2008 game on my Steam account. So, yeah, I'm going to need to play those on the channel at some point.
Yes, as soon as I complete the Game Boy Color ROM of A New Nightmare, I'm going to probably play it on the channel as well.
Yeah.
at some.
But in any event, yeah, this is Welcome to Raccoon City, a very flawed but genuine, heartfelt attempt to bring Resident Evil back to what made it Resident Evil. And I don't give a shit what anyone else says. I genuinely enjoy it. It was one of my favorite movies from last year. In spite of its numerous flaws, it is something I would easily recommend checking out.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
One thing I have to say is that after nearly 20 years of shitty live action adaptation after shitty live action adaptation, I'm just glad we got a Resident Evil movie that actually felt like a Resident Evil movie.
Damn right.
And it had that certain level of 90s camp.
Yeah.
And that one liner by Leon near the end probably has to be my favorite part. Because it's like you said, he looks like he dropped the dopest one-liner of 1998.
A rocket launcher?
That was our first discussion last year.
A rocket launcher? Found it in first class.
And that shit-eating grin.
Yes. That was great. That was fantastic.
Those were good times, man.
Two other issues I could bring up with the movie. One is I feel like if they wanted to go full 90s, they should have had more practical effects. They should have not gone for like so much CG, especially CG blood.
Yep.
Like, I don't give a shit how economical it is to use CG blood. It will never have the same amount of rawness. It will never feel as raw and visceral as in-camera blood squibs. I love John Wick, but they need to ditch the CG blood. It's like at this point you've got the budget to use practical blood. Fucking use it. Because I'm not buying the CG blood at all. And I feel
only way it's convincing is if you're blind and you're looking at it up close.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know if these movies were shot on. I don't think this movie was shot on 35 millimeter. I think it was shot on digital, like most movies are these days. And I feel like if they wanted to go full 90s, they really, and especially lean into the John Carpenter influence, they really should have, assuming this wasn't shot on film, they really should have gone for like 35 millimeter to give it just that extra touch of 90s John Carpenter, because he is such an avid proponent of using film instead of shooting on digital.
Yeah.
Those are the other two things I need to think of. I needed to say. Maybe the sequel, because there are supposedly talks of a second movie going on. Even though this movie didn't exactly light the box office on fire, it made a killing on video on demand. So hopefully, fingers crossed, one day we will get a sequel to this. If not, we got one good movie out of Resident Evil, and I'll be fine with that. Besides, even though I'm still currently working on a different project, a different book project, I'm actually planning out I'm actually planning a book right now that is going to be like my version of this, but without Sony's interference and without too much and without leaning too hard into the Resident Evil, so I can pretty much just do whatever I want. It's something I've been wanting to write for a while, and um, hopefully sometime within the next couple of years I'll have something to really roll out as far as that goes. But in any event, I think that's going to do it for this stream. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I don't know what we're going to talk about next time, but once we figure it out, we'll catch you later.